Hello, welcome to the 120 Q&A practice. We're going to start out with some Q&A and defense will be questioning. Here we go. Ready? Mrs. Millbrook, do you recall anything from the recording that was played in this courtroom when you asked several times whether or not your husband was dead or injured? Yes, ma'am, I do. And in response to one of Mr. Phillips' questions, you indicated that that was the first time that you found out that your husband was seriously injured. Isn't that right? Yes, ma'am, it is, to my knowledge. Do you recall having a conversation with a Brent Knox of the Boise City Jail? Vaguely, yes, ma'am. Do you recall the date of that conversation? Well, I think it was sometime in November. Do you recall the substance of that conversation with Mr. Knox? Most of it, yes. Do you recall saying, well, they tried to kill Tony. They told me they wouldn't hurt him? Vaguely, yes. I guess I said something along those lines. So you were aware that Tony was seriously injured when you left the house? No. Why did you make that statement to Mr. Knox? Your Honor, I will object to that question as argumentative. Overruled. Your Honor, I will rephrase it. Mrs. Millbrook, on that date, after you were taken into custody in the city jail, you told Brent Knox that you knew that your husband was either dead or seriously injured. Do you recall making that statement? Yes, ma'am, kind of. You have testified in court today that you did not know whether your husband was dead or seriously injured until later that day when you were interrogated by Deputy Perez. That's when I officially knew his status. That's when you officially knew what, Mrs. Millbrook? That my husband was still alive. Actually, isn't it true that before you were removed from the house that night, they told you your husband was seriously injured? I don't remember. Yes or no? I don't remember. Later at the time you were interrogated, which we have on the recording, you asked if your husband was alive. Is that correct? I think I did. At that time, you made some statements saying, thank heavens, thank the Lord. Yes, that is true. What made you believe Deputy Perez at that time and not earlier at your place of residence? Because someone came in the room, one of the other officers, and he said that he had received a call from the hospital that my husband was in intensive care. Mrs. Millbrook, do you recall sitting in a squad car that evening? Yes, ma'am, I do. And do you recall hearing a statement over the radio of that squad car that there was a shotgun victim at 908 Skyview Lane? Well, now, how do you expect me to remember all that? Objection, Your Honor. It is assuming a fact not yet in evidence. Sustained. Your Honor, I am asking if she recalls the statement on the radio. She can answer yes or no. The witness is instructed to answer the question. No, ma'am. Do you recall Deputy Perez sitting in the patrol car with you? I don't really remember what his name was. Was that man in the squad car with you in uniform? No, ma'am, he was not. Was he in civilian clothes? Yes, ma'am. Do you recall Deputy Perez telling you that you were under arrest for murder? No, I don't remember that. Your Honor, this assumes a fact that is not yet in evidence. Your Honor, it calls for a yes or no answer. Proceed, Mrs. Delaney. Mrs. Millbrook, do you recall being told by Deputy Perez at your residence after the shooting that you were under arrest? No, ma'am, I wasn't told I was under arrest. You don't recall being told that you were under arrest? No, ma'am, I don't recall that. Mrs. Millbrook, isn't your testimony that at that time you broke down and began intermittently crying and screaming at Deputy Perez? What would you do? I was upset. There were policemen all over the place. My hands were handcuffed behind my back. I was forced to lie down on the back seat of the squad car. I was crying. I don't recall making any statements. I did not believe that the gun had discharged. You have indicated in response to some questions presented by Mr. Phillips that you and Brent Knox left the house and went for a drive on this Sunday in question. Yes, ma'am. Could that have been Saturday? No, ma'am, it was Sunday. Are you positive it was Sunday? Yes, I am positive. Do you recall having a conversation with Brent Knox regarding some stocks and securities that your husband Tony planned to transfer into your name? I recall no such conversation with Brent. You never made that statement? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Okay, we'll switch transcripts. This one will start out with plaintiff attorney. Ready? On or about May 18, 2009, did you pick up a Marshall stereo sound system from Mr. Lee Barker, a Michigan State police officer? Did I pick it up? Did you pick it up? No. Did you deliver it to him? Did I deliver it to him? Yes, I did. And where did you get that Marshall stereo sound system? At the swap meet. Which swap meet are you referring to? The Lansing State Fairgrounds swap meet. Do you have a receipt for this purchase? No, I don't. Did you pay cash or did you pay by check? Cash. I used all 20s. Who was with you when you purchased it, if anyone? No one was with me. Do you have any evidence that you purchased the stereo at the Lansing State Fairgrounds swap meet? I don't think so, no. The guy was just there, you know. He was there and had some stereos, and I bought them. Did you know him? No. Did you buy any other stereos from him? I think I bought 2 or 3 stereos from the guy. What did you do with the other 2 or 3 stereos? I sold them. To whom? Just people. Can we have their names and addresses, please? I don't have their names and addresses. I am sorry. Over what period of time did you sell them? I don't know. It took me 2 months, maybe, to sell them. How much did you pay for the stereos at the swap meet. Around $100 cash for each of them. Okay, that concludes our Q&A practice for the 120 class.